Hey, everybody, welcome to Downballot Roundup, where I introduce you to Democratic candidates running in local elections throughout the country. I'm Brian Randolph, and today I'm here with Alexandra Deufel, who is running for the new North Dakota State House of Representatives to represent the 40th District. Alexandra, it is great to have you here today. How you doing?
Good, thank you, and thank you so much for having us, or me.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for being here. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about you?
Well, I'm a scientist. I'm a professor here at Minot State University in Minot, North Dakota, and I'm originally from Germany. Maybe you detect a little bit of an accent, although I've been living here for well over 20 years, and I love it up here in North Dakota, and I want to bring some change to our legislature.
Excellent. And can you tell me a little bit about your district, about District 40?
Well, all districts in North Dakota are pretty rural. So in my case, that's true as well. Usually what happens, there's a chunk of a city. Minot is a small city of about 50,000 people. And so my district includes the area around the university, and then it extends far, far out into the rural areas north of the city.
Now, when you out, have you been out? Assuming you've been out meeting people. Are you hearing any particular issues rising up a lot that people are talking about?
Well, in my case, I'm running mostly on the culture war stuff. North Dakota has been really, really into all the culture war things that are coming up, and I hear a lot of concern from people for that don't want to be second-class citizens if they don't fit the mold. I'm also hearing maybe even more on property tax relief. We do have a measure going on where people can vote on abandoning property taxes altogether and basically then sending all the municipalities to the state for money. And so that's a big concern that people have. They don't like the high property taxes, but I don't hear a lot of support for getting rid of them altogether because then you have to go to the state and you get that top down rural holding the purse strings for all the municipalities. So that's a problem that people identify.
And how do you think, as far as the culture war stuff, how is it resonating when you talk to people? Are you hitting a lot of good response on your side?
I do. I mean, this is a conservative area. I usually talk about it more from a libertarian aspect. A lot of the younger women absolutely respond to this. Younger people in general, which I see as my biggest constituency for outreach here, is younger people. Some of the older folks, they have a more of a black and white thinking that they don't understand how I can be for abandoning this culture war stuff, even with the abortion health of the mother, and they feel it's fine if you have that in there. And with older people, I'm less able to convince them that maybe we shouldn't have lawyers decide some of this or politicians, but doctors and the people that are directly infected. And that message resonates with younger people more, and it resonates with women more than with the older generation.
One of the things I'm hearing from a lot of people is that younger people are kind of leaving these rural districts because of that kind of rhetoric. Have you heard a lot of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody you talk to. As a college professor, obviously, I talk to a lot of younger people, 18, 19, 20, that age group, and they come here for the inexpensive college, but then they're all looking to leave. And it's kind of interesting because the state has this big campaign, workforce development, but I keep telling them as much as I can, well, how are you going to do that if you're so unwelcoming to people who are not exactly like you and you're unwelcoming to young people in their views? So if you disparage young people, then you can't be really surprised if they are looking to leave. And we have Minnesota right next door, which is still a Midwestern northern state, but the politics there are obviously very different, particularly in the larger cities, of course.
Now, aside from the culture war issue, are there like specific pieces of legislation that you think you would want to move forward if you were brought into the state house?
Yeah, I think we desperately need childcare assistance. That's an issue that's perennial. It never goes away. and there's a little bit of fixing around the edges of that, but we really need to either support parents with funding so that the income cap gets raised again, and there has been some of that to get child care assistance, but that only works if you have spots. So I think we need to also desperately expand the availability, and then you get into the workforce issues again. Where are you finding the workers for these child care centers, and how do you get people to work there if the pay is not sufficient? So I think we need to work on that aspect of it. The state has made some headway in getting money to parents, but that's not increasing the availability of the spots. And so, if you want to have children to be born, as that seems to be one of the driving things on the right, then you need to make sure people have a way to deal with those kids that they are having.
Now, as far as I know that you're kind of out there on an island a little bit,
Yep.
but how are you managing the campaign? I know you're underfunded, but I mean, are you're kind of running by yourself? How's that going?
Yeah, I'm running by myself, and I've really found a lot of success on TikTok. I started out campaigning on Facebook. That's been much more difficult because you only hit older people there, and I really feel like I need to reach out to younger people. And so the online world seems to be the best way of doing that. I've gotten a great response with TikTok. The campaign is really only starting full force now. Now is when we're getting these invitations to speaking engagements and so on. But it's tough up here. I'm the only Democrat running in this district against three Republicans, two for the House, one for the Senate. So we really need to rebuild the party up here. And even things like yard signs, trying to get people to put your yard signs out. It's pretty common if you're a Democrat to have people tell you, yeah, I support you, but don't tell my neighbor. And I'm sorry, I can't put out a yard sign because of they might be sort of subjected to bullying in the neighborhood. They don't want their neighbors to know they're Democrats. But when you look at election results, we have probably a 2-to-1 ratio, so about 30% to 40% of people here are Democrats. But a lot of them have given up and they're staying very quiet about being Democrats. So one of the big reasons I want to run is to make it okay again to say, look, we're Democrats, we stand for these personal freedoms, and that the Republican Party no longer can be considered the party of freedom and small government, at least as it comes to these culture war things. And they're still wrapping themselves in the mantle of that. We're trying to recapture also the patriotism that has been completely taken over by the Republicans. So that's part of the message we're trying to push. I'm collaborating a lot with the candidate in the neighboring district where she's in the same boat, in District 38, Lisa Hermosillo. She's, again, the only Democrat running in that district against three Republicans. What's good for us is that we each only have one incumbent. So of the three Republicans, there's one incumbent and two new people. So there's less name recognition. So I'm trying to get my name out there. Lisa's getting her name out there. And so we just trying to move the needle and trying to get people to care even about these little elections. I think people give up. They think, oh, it's just all Republicans. It won't make a difference. But in our state, we have 11% Democrats in the legislature, representing more like 30 to 40% Democrats out living here. So that's disproportionate. So our message is like, let's bring a little bit of balance back down there in the state capital.
Well, I thank you for fighting that because that is a
Yeah.
difficult fight to fight. And I only have a minute left, but
Yep.
this is my favorite question. This is my softball question, but it's my favorite. Could you tell me something about your district that makes it really special to you?
Just a rural life. I moved to North Dakota so I can have horses. My husband and I have 60 acres. We're making hay. We're riding our horses. So we have this small farm life. that we can afford up here. We both like winter and not just hot, humid summers, and we have beautiful summers here. The winters are long, yeah, but we like having the four seasons, and so we just moved up here for a reason for this rural life.
Alexandra Deufel is running for the North Dakota State House in District 40. Thank you so much for being here today and for doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.